Yes. So the mic is on.
Okay.
To introduce. Yeah, I'd like to introduce my colleague. I'd like to introduce Mrs. Utule Fatu. She was director of the kindergarten program in American Samoa, DOE, and currently now is similar to the district superintendent here in American Samoa. She heads the western district of the Department of Education Samoa. She and I both work on this research project that we received. So I'm going to do this bilingually because I think some of you want to hear more Samoan and at the same time. Anyway, we're here because of this research project that we received. And one of the components of the research project is Samoan language. What is the language of instruction in the classroom? And what is the language ability, language use of the teacher and student? Now, for some of you that do not know anything about American Samoa, we're the territory of the only territory of the United States south of the equator. And we're culturally and linguistically, we're the same people as Western Samoa. Western Samoa is an independent state. So, and as opposed to the territory, we, of course, are under the jurisdiction of the American government. And as a territory, we're nationals of the U.S. and we travel anywhere in the United States without any problems with immigration. That's not the same with Western Samoa because they're independent states, so they're considered foreign country in the United States. So, Utule and I thought about this class last night and gave it some serious thought. Instead of boring you with our research project material, we wanted to talk to you about language. And part of my training is in bilingual multicultural education. And I've done a lot of course development in this area because of the importance of language. And I think when we were growing up, we take language for granted. It's just something that you learn from your parents. So we're going to give you a little some slides here in terms of our thinking about language and why this particular component in our research is so critical. Because the language of instruction in American Samoa, because it's a territory of America, the language of instruction in American Samoa for DOE is English. Now you think about this. The students come into the classroom and they hear nothing but English. And the students coming into the classroom are Samoan. Their entire lives outside of the classroom is Samoa. Their parents speak Samoan, they go to church Samoan, the village is Samoan, their classmates, they play outside of the classroom and in the village are Samoan. So that presents a lot of challenges when the school system has this language of instruction that is not the language that the children learn at home and come to school with that particular language. So we wanted to highlight the importance of language. And so the title of our slide presentation is Olau Ngangana o Lo Fa'asino Manga. Your language, your identity. A recent author of the book called Langana, who is Melesea, said this about it. I found it very interesting that he said this. He said, "You don't know you're Samoan until you leave Samoa." And I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting how he said that. You really don't know your Samoanness until you leave Samoa. Why is that? Because people look at you and say, "Where are you from?" In Samoa, they don't come up and say, "Where are you from?" They'll probably say, "Hey, what village are you from?" But when you're outside of Samoa, they're going to ask you, "Where are you from?" That's because you look a little different. You look Polynesian, and you probably have an accent. You dress different. They're interested in who you are, your identity. So this statement about you don't know your Samoanness until you're out of Samoa is certainly something that I believe is true. Having grown up outside of Samoa most of my life, constantly talking about who I am, my identity. So the title of our slide presentation is Olau Ngangana o Lo Fa'asino Manga. Could you read that for me, class? I'd like to hear you Samoan. Iya. Great. They say in Samoan, "E loa oe I lau tu ma wanga, lau savali, ma lau tautala." e loa oi I lau tu o wanga, lau savali ma lau tautala. You will be known by your culture, how you walk, and your language. So think about those things in terms of our discussion. And if you have a question, hey, this is informal. I mean, you're not in a lecture. We're just talking here. We just want to share with you. What is language? What is language? And I'll have this side read the Samoan for me, and that side read the English, and then we'll switch. Iya. Oh, let's do it together. Iya. Olengangana. O upu maea o na whaasino lato whaaleonga, mawinga, mai se whaatulangana, o ngālili ai tangata o se afternoon. Oh, don't you just love that? We say in Samoa, your tongue gets sprained from trying to read the words. Essentially what it's saying is language is a system of sounds, words, and meanings which have been developed and used by a group of people in a society. That's what language is. It's a tool, it's a system, sounds, meanings assigned to a word, whether the word is just spoken or the word is written. Now for Samoa, what kind of language, traditionally Samoan, is it a written language or an oral language? Class. It's oral. All of Polynesian, oral. Most of the islands in the Pacific, oral. They didn't have to develop a written language. Why should they? I mean, the population of American Samoa is only 60,000. It started off with like 3,000 or 5,000. So why do you have to write anything? You just, hey neighbor. No, it's just very small, very small. And as an oral tradition, everything then becomes memorized. In songs, in legends. Those are the quote-unquote written language of the Pacific Islanders. Through their songs, through the plays or skits, through the legends, through the genealogy. Not written, but memorized and passed on. Okay? So language is a system of words, meanings, and sounds which have been developed by a group of people and given special meaning to them. Okay. My colleague, if you want to jump in, you're welcome. Don't. She's enjoying this. Okay, so this side of the room. Can you read the word there on top there? Iya. Again. Fa'ata'ita'inga. Okay. You notice right here this thing called glottals. It's a sound. It's a sound in our language. Fa'ata'ita'inga. If you don't have that sound, you could get in trouble. You're saying the wrong word to the wrong person. Yeah. Okay, so this side of the class, can you read that word that's capitalized E? Matai. In other words, matai. And say it nicely, matai. It's probably one of the simplest language in the Pacific to learn, the Samoan language. It's simpler than Tongan. Tongan is hard to learn. And their orthography is hard to learn. Okay, because I know it. Matai. It's very simple. Phonetic. Syllable. Very easy to pronounce. So language, when you say the word matai to a Samoan, what conjures up in the mind is, as the picture is trying to depict, an orator, a leader. Okay, so our definition of language, sound system, words, definitions assigned by a group of people in which they can communicate, has meaning to them. You say matai to a Tongan, you have matai? Ikai?
Yeah, but we use a different word.
You don't say matai, you say what?
Eiki.
Eiki. So you say eiki, and you say eiki to a Samoan, it's like you're saying, you cheeky? You might get a black eye if you say eiki to a Samoan. But eiki is matai, and they've assigned that sound, eiki, the meaning of the word we use, matai. So be careful what you say to a Tongan and what you say to a Samoan. Yeah. Okay. This side, no, okay, let's go back to that side. That side of the, read the question there in Samoan. Ia olea le fascino manga. Terrific. This side of the class, read it. Olea le fascino manga. Briefly, it's saying, what is identity? We've talked a little bit about what is language. Now we're talking about what is identity. Isn't your language your identity? I mean, you don't go around with a badge here and say, my identity, Samoan language. But as soon as you open your mouth and you speak, that language belongs to a particular group of people in the Pacific. When a Tongan person speaks Tongan, if you know your geography, you know where that person's from. Samoan, of course you don't know between the Samoans, Manua, Tutuila, or Western Samoa, because it's one language. Are we grateful we have one language, Gus? I was listening to, we had some guests at the University of Hawaii. They're Yaqui from Arizona. And they're interested in our work, our research work. They're also interested in what University of Hawaii is doing with Samoan language. And so they were visiting from Arizona to find out more about how to preserve their language. And so I asked him, how many Yaquis in Arizona? 20,000. 20,000 people that speak this beautiful language, Yaqui. And then across the border, I think they were saying Mexico, there's another 40,000. So altogether, in this whole world, 60,000 people speak this beautiful language called Yaqui. If you lose that, the 60,000 people do not speak it and cannot pass it on to the children, you've lost a sound system. You've lost those beautiful words assigned, I don't know if the word is assigned, but developed by this group of 60,000 people. That's very small. In American Samoa, the population is about 70,000. Western Samoa is about 225,000. In Hawaii, there's about 60,000 Samoans. In California, there's about 100,000 Samoans. In New Zealand, close to half the population in New Zealand, well, no, that's not. The largest minority group in New Zealand are Samoans. If you were to put all the Samoans wherever they are in the world, we don't even make 1 million. You lose that language, 1 million people would have lost their identity as Samoans. You think about how serious that is, and why it's so important that you missionaries that have been to Samoa, keep that language, marry Samoan girls, you'll be speaking Samoan to your children. Yeah, look at that, yeah. That doesn't mean you can't look at the nice looking blondes, but teach her Samoan too. Okay, so what is identity? And we're talking one of the most important characteristic of identity is language. Because language carries with it everything about a way of life. You can't go fishing in Samoan if you ask somebody, pass me the spear. They pass you something else. So language is important. It's a tool to communicate, to perpetuate your culture. You take away language, you may as well fold up and take a hike. Okay, I'm not seeing your hands. If you've got questions, don't hesitate. And my coworker, if you want to ask, don't hesitate either. Okay, olo fa'asino manga. What is identity? What is your fa'asino manga? Your identity includes just about everything. Everything. E awhi ai au walam tūlanga umai soifu ai tangata o so'o se atunu. Organized ways by which people live their lives in different societies. So you have the Samoans in Samoa. They've organized their way of life, and that's their identity. You have Tongans, you have Tahitians, and I'm just talking basic about United States. United States is a conglomeration of different cultures. When we think United States, we think blonde, blue eyes, white, pretty pink skin, but they have cultures too. It's just that they've kind of become so nationalized that they want one culture. And I keep telling my brother who works in DC, I said, you know, that the whole movement to reduce bilingual education, there was a Bilingual Education Act which emerged from the civil rights movement of Martin Luther King in the 60s. The whole movement to reduce the Bilingual Education Act to make English more nationalism. Well, the United States is now facing a big problem. The largest minority group in the United States is what? Anybody know? Spanish-speaking people. And the problems, I say you shouldn't say problem. The challenges are the same. Just like Samoans moving from Samoa, Tongans moving from Tonga to Kauai to United. Problems are the same, identical. Cambodians moving to the United States. What are the problems? Identity problems, language problems. And here the United States want to melt everybody so they can become more American. It's important to access the system, the government, but it's also important to maintain the identity, okay? So what does it include in terms of your identity? Your language, your culture, handicrafts, the kinds of food you eat, the kind of shelter that you build back home, your belief system, kind of work. I was just talking to Tule. I said, you know, I remember when I was a child, I remember when my grandmother and all of the women in the village would get together in a fale, and they'd start working, either making siapo or tapa, and they would just sing. They would sing. And somebody would start a song, and the rest of the group would take part, and they'd be singing while they're working. What a beautiful practice to lighten the burden and to make the hours go quickly as they work. Okay? Ngaluenga, ta'afiafianga, ta'alonga. Okay, I'm assuming that you know some of these words, but if you don't, hey, don't stress out. Just enjoy the picture. By the way, this picture is Erita Pai Tangata. I think they're the royal family.
The royal family,
yeah.
yeah.
The royal family. The royal
King.
family.
His brother.
His brother.
King and his brother, yeah. Past king.
Okay, yeah.
Salu,
Yes.
Yeah, just to add what Salu had mentioned in regards to identity, as you can see all those things up there. So, misile se mea mela umale peonga ka ua ku tu ainga ngana tu anga me taulima misi se mea mela tasi pelua. So that means the incomplete le society ele o ko uma me ele o ingala ele o ka ko ele o se sa mo ia po ele o se tonga mo iso se mea penga misi la ngana. Then you will find out, you know, that you're missing something important from your language, your society, or tumaanga culture. If you miss one of those, ya longo binga ikaw keo fa pe ya fa pe nga wale pe wa le palangi le Samoa le palangi le Congo whatever. Ya awo fa aleo lua ka ko fa pe nga.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, okay, for those of you that kind of, what is she's saying about these different aspects of your identity or your culture? If you don't have the complete set, shall we say, if you don't really fully have it, you're really missing out on a lot. I need to tell you this because I left Samoa when I was about 5. And my father joined the Navy, so we traveled a lot. And so I'm grateful that my parents always spoke Samoan to us at home. Because once we leave that door, it was all English. We open the door after school, we come back, it was totally Samoan. But over the years, you just listen to someone, it was Samoan language confined in the home. So we knew Samoan with regards to chores, everything around the outside of the home. We never spoke about the politics or the news or anything else. So the vocabulary from those parts of the world in Samoan was missing. Because the vocabulary was basically the vocabulary of doing your chores, doing laundry, washing dishes, cooking, watching your sister or your brother, the yard work. You see what I'm saying? So what she's saying is when the vocabulary, when you're missing the outside of the home as I was growing up, you haven't got the complete sense of the culture. And that's what happened. when I returned to Samoa after graduating from Church College, many pounds ago, dinosaur age when I graduated. You know what? It still looks the same. We're talking about 40, 50 years ago when I was a student. The college is still beautiful. It's still the same. Auditorium, everything. This is pretty new. But you don't get a full sense of the culture if these things are missing. So, to my young brothers and sisters that are Samoan in this class, when I returned to Samoa upon graduation, I had a problem. I didn't know all of these things because, again, I was saying, my Samoan language was confined in the home. My life, as I left the door, was English. In order to survive, I had English. Now I'm going back to Samoa, everything was in Samoan. So even trying to express my ideas outside of the house was difficult. I had to relearn. And I'm so grateful that my parents always spoke Samoan at home because the sound system was there. It was just a matter of adding the vocabulary with regards to culture, metaulima, food, practices, ceremonies. I had to add that to my vocabulary. So it is possible to learn a language, even at a late date. Okay. Where are we? Teaching the language. Okay, can I have this group here? Can you read the first part here? Let me go. Here we go. Ready? Iya. Olengangana tu'u mutu. Anybody tell me what that means? What is ngangana tu'u mutu? What is mutu? Mouth. Tu'u mutu means what? By word of mouth. Right. From one mouth to another. Oh, be careful there. Okay. Olengangana tu'u mutu. Meaning the language is from mouth to mouth. Oral. No written. Okay, this side, can you read the second one? Ia. Tala fa'a momo. Again. Tala fa'a momo. And Utule and I were talking, I remember as a young girl, of course there are no books at home in Samoa when I was little in Samoa, but the books were through the legends and the stories that our grandparents made up while we were trying to fall asleep. And it was called whangomo time. So everybody's on the mat, and then the grandmother or grandfather, okay, we have a story. Of course, the people in America, when their children are tucked in, and okay, sweetheart, I have a story for you, and they read the book. In Samoa, you're on the mat. Okay, whangomo tatou porne. And they create stories about the sorcerers and make you all scared, and then you just fall asleep. You don't want to hear the rest of the whangomo. But legends and stories, storytelling. So, tala fa'a momo. The other way we teach language is pespesenga. What is pespesenga? Singing. Simple songs. And of course, like the Tongans and the other, when we have big celebration, you're talking about 500 people learning a song or several songs. And the songs are composed by, about the occasion, giving credit to the leaders, and also poking fun at the leaders as well. A research done by Burke in 2002 said this, that between newborn children and 2-year-old children, they have the capacity to learn and use between 50 to 200 words. That's a lot. That's a lot of words. Children between birth and 2-year-old have the capacity to use and understand 50 to 200 words. Now, being an educator, my little boy who's 8, adopted little Samoan boy, I do this, I experiment on him. So I would be talking to him and I would take note of what he's saying. He's in English or in Samoan. And so I try to make him bilingual because that's what I believe in. Because I got to tell you this. So he's learning Samoan and Tongan. Not Tongan. Like I said, my husband is part Tongan, but the words he uses in Tonga Tevita, I don't want him to use it at home. They're all spicy words. Men kind of words. So, okay, no, I don't want you to use Tongan. You should speak Samoan to David. So a lot of occasion, David would would show signs of learning to shift and juggle the two languages. One day we come often to vacation. So I think David was like 4 years old, and I told him, okay, son, we are going on vacation in a couple of weeks. He's all excited. Wow. And I said, yep, so I'll tell you. So the days go by, he says, is it tonight, Mom? No, son, Sunday. The flight is on Sunday night. So Sunday we get on the plane, he's going, and we come back. So we get down to Hawaii. And he's like 4 now, he's very alert. He says, wow, is this America? Is this America, Mom? No, this is Hawaii. Remember your sister lives in Hawaii? Oh, okay. So we catch the next day, we catch the flight to LA, and he's like, okay, LA airport. You're talking about all the freeways are going up. So David gets out and says, Mom, you and Dad born me America? And my husband looks at him, I'm looking at my husband, I say, okay, I don't know what my husband's going to say. He says, son, yes, you were born in America, Samoa. Language. Even at a very tender age, children already picking up 50 to 200 words. It's a natural thing. It's a universal thing. Language is universal. The way it's learned is universal. Pretty much the same. I was listening to my nephew, who's been married about 3 years, very funny nephew. And his wife is concerned that his son, a little year-old baby, is not speaking yet. I said, Mana, don't worry. He may not be producing the speech, but he's learning all the things that you're saying to him. And I hope you're speaking Tahitian and Samoan, the nice words. And he's laughing. He said, my wife wants to take him to a psychologist. For what? He's just a little baby. He's developing. He hasn't developed his mouth to pronounce the word, but you keep talking to him. And he's listening, and he'll understand. You can tell that. Okay, this is the first baby. So, proud daddy, first baby, son. So, and the wife is a PhD, UH, and she wants to take everything that... I said, just tell her, relax, okay? Relax. Just be a nice mommy and just talk to the kid. If you have problems with her, send her to me. My nephew and I are like that. We're real good. Anyway, so that's the thing you've got to remember, is that kids learn language. It's a universal process. There is a process in which language is used. And children between that age, that's a lot of words, 50 to 200 words that they understand and they can use. So, if you're thinking that you can't learn Samoan, hey, look at this. Okay, Ubu Samoa. Like I said, Samoan is the easiest language to learn. So you all should get A's from your teacher. It's phonetic. Okay, everybody, let's read the words. Ia, hamo, popo, tama, tamaiti, abenga, pelu, awala, Fanua, Ngaluenga, Tongavao, Awala Ngalue. Okay, got you on the last one there. Awala Ngalue, the road, the work road. Awala, 2 words, compound words. Awala Ngalue. Okay? So, very, very simple to learn. You really need to have your teacher set up a trip where you all come down to Samoa for a week and get immersed into the culture, right? If not, go to Tonga. So you take someone, but you go to Tonga and practice your Samoan over there. Okay? The Samoan language has its own language system in place. Our language was not written until the missionaries came to Samoa in 1830. First time the orthography was developed by missionaries. And guess what book they had us reading from? The Bible. Yes, that's the Bible. So the Bible is like our dictionary, everything. Words. So, you like have Herod. There's no H or R in our language, but the missionaries found ways to write Herod. All right? Herota. Herota. And there's no H and no R in our language, but we've adopted it because of the Bible. So the orthography was set for us by the missionaries, and I really give credit to them. they did a pretty nice job with the Tongan because the N, the G in our language is NG. So the Tongan's got to work harder to read and write. They've got an extra letter somewhere that they put in there. But the missionaries that came, they just G, N. The Tongan NG, N. Same sound, but more work for them. Okay. So 5 vowels, 12 consonants. You cannot go wrong. You take Mandarin, you're in for 1,000 characters. Okay, and the pomaliliu, I have to say pomaliliu is a sound. Is a sound. And the reason why a lot of us are lazy in putting in all the diacritics is because there was a philosophy in Samoa for decades that you don't need the diacritical marks. If you're really Samoan, you know how to read it. But when we're teaching children, we have to tell them the sound is a sound part of the system. And it must be in place. Because the Hawaiians have learned that too as well. Right? Anybody Hawaiian in here? Everybody read that for me. Iya. Right here, the picture. What does that mean? What is it saying? It sounded good when I heard you say it. Read it. What does that mean? Manaya means what? Nice or pretty or beautiful. Atufale, what does that mean? Row of houses. Great. And Malay? This open space here. Very important part of the village is the Malay. Atufale, row of houses. Ema naya le atufale mal Malay olenu. Let's have the missionaries. Well, where did I have my Samoan missionary? Okay, all right. Get up and read this for me. Iya. Yeah, both of you. Iya puilunga.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, faitau mai lunga iya.
Mata o na haole ngana ile manava. Language is taught in the womb.
Pakitai lava.
Mata
o na haole ngana ile manava. This is research. Linguists have found that language begins in the womb. Now, you know, us Polynesians were looking at each other and saying, eh? Teaching language begins in the womb. And that's why young mothers are encouraged to read. Read to their babies, their womb, before the baby is born. Because they're listening. They're listening. So, and when we were talking, I said, well, yeah, that makes sense. Of course it makes sense. You know, when the baby is born and the baby is like a month or 2 months, the baby is used to the mother's voice, her smell, her warmth. When somebody tries to take that baby and a different voice, different smell, what does the baby do? Starts crying. This is a foreign thing. You know, coming out, who's taking me? So the baby cries. It's the warmth and the sound system that the mother is using that the child begins to differentiate as the child is learning. What does that mean? Anybody know? Siomanga, what is that word? Surrounding environment. This is my son in the dark suit, in the dark swimming. This is our bathing suits in Samoa. It's your t-shirt and your short. And he's jumping off this little concrete here in the middle of the ocean here. And I took several shots of this and I wanted to catch him in the air. But look at this environment. Beautiful environment. And the language surrounding that environment. So, amata o na aole ngana ile manava, mai le leo le tina, male ngana mai le si o manga. Language is taught beginning from the womb, the voice of the mother, and the environment. I'm always fascinated by the Palangi parents and how they talk to their children. How are you, the little baby? How are you, sweetie? Oh, dear. And the Samoan mother just pick up the baby. They're different. We don't want no equivalency here. So the Palangi mother, oh, sweetheart, are you okay today? And the mother, it's a different environment. different child rearing practices. And then of course as the baby gets older, there's a sibling or a niece who becomes the mother. And that's the person that talks to the child, takes care of her needs or his needs, not necessarily the mother all the time, all day. So very different practices here. So, maile leo litina, the voice of the mother, maile nganganaw si o mama. Okay? And you're probably wondering, where is the Samoan father? He's around. Okay, I wanted to bring this sense up in terms of language. Everybody read this for me. Ia, e vai ese mea ola, mai tamata ola, ile ngangana. Language separates animals from humans. That's my dog. Her name is Tsunami. She was born just at the time that we had the tsunami in Samoa in 2009. Now Tsunami doesn't talk to me. I talk to Tsunami. Tsunami, did you eat today? And Tsunami would come by the door and scratch, and trying to tell me, you've been gone all day, Mom. I'm really hungry. But you have people who bought in or agreed or have learned the language to communicate. This is probably the most important separation of living things from humans, is the language. The ability of the human being to learn a language. And as I was saying earlier, language is learned basically the same way no matter what part of the world you're in. Okay, language is learned in different stages. What are the 4 parts of language that we know? Anybody? And maybe Utule can help me. What is it? Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Okay. For Samoan language and most of the Pacific language, basically it was listening and speaking. Listening and speaking. So Pacific Island people have great capacity to memorize because they come from a culture where everything is memorized. Scriptures, genealogy. I'm always amazed at my older sibling. He memorizes genealogy like crazy, and he'll say to me, Salu, you don't know that we're related to this person? I said, no. I said, do you remember was married to and they had and I'm saying, oh, I think maybe you're related to them, not me. I can't remember that genealogy. But genealogy is memorized, and it's critical that you know your genealogy. Come time to choose a matai, if you don't know your genealogy, you might be asked to leave the house. You don't belong in that family. Serious. I've seen it happen. So, language is learned in different stages. Language is learned in different stages. So whatever stage of learning you're at, don't worry, you'll get it. It might take you another 5 years, but that's okay. Missionaries go to a training center where they learn it like in 3 months. Ali, Fimasino. Oh,
It's 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
2 months. And they really don't get in it until you're immersed in the culture. Yeah. So these are the stages that I can recall. Babbling, you get to your pre-school stage, intermediate stage, and then your adult post-secondary stage. So the stages are pretty much universal no matter what language you use. So if you're still in the babbling stage, don't worry. In another 2 years, you'll move up to the preschool stage. It's not that hard. Bilingualism, multiculturalism are really treasures. Are really treasures of language. And that's it. Did you go ahead? Yeah, go ahead. 5 more minutes? Okay. Then I'm okay. I'm done. Pretty much. Facili. Okay, we have a question in the back there. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I noticed today, in the generation today,
Yeah.
it's more like the grandparents, the one working at the kids to learn not the parents.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
As as much as we say oa means rich, as much as the grandparents have the rich language, there is also a generational gap there. The children might be taught to just basically as adults, but I think it's wonderful that the grandparents have the opportunity to raise their children. If their grandparents are living here, that child is not going to be with the grandparents all the time. That the child is going to be exposed to other people in their environment. So hopefully the parents and the grandparents. We were talking to the Yaqui tribe representative yesterday, and they didn't know how, they bring the young people in and they teach them in the classes, and then the kids leave the classroom and they haven't seen the result. And so I said to them, you have to have parental involvement in that program. Because if the kids are learning Yaqui in the classroom and they go home and the parents are speaking English to them, you're fighting an uphill battle. The parents have to reinforce the language at home. So whether it's parents or grandparents, the kids has to be able to practice, interact, use, understand the meaning of those words, meanings assigned to those words. So we're thankful for grandparents, but it's got to be also parents, siblings. So again, I'm just going to use an example of my son, who's 3rd grade now. Will interact in both languages. He knows how to switch. When he goes to the neighbor, they have 7 children. He's full-on Samoan. He goes to a private school just down the road. He's full-on English. They don't allow Samoan in the school. So he speaks English at school, Samoan playing with his friends, and at home it's bilingual. So kids will be able to adapt. I mean, learning languages, you go to Europe, kids learn like 5 languages. No problem. You have the capacity built by the Lord to do so. If that's your area, if you're thinking of becoming a linguist, hey, my sister-in-law speaks proficiently 3 or 4 languages. French, where she speaks a little bit of Samoan, English, German, Spanish. That's what, 5? 5. It's nothing. So if you're thinking of majoring in this area, hey, good on you, and I wish you luck. Any other question? Did I address your question, sir?
Yes,
Any other questions? Okay. I guess. Okay.
I would like to thank Salu for spending the time, for driving all the way from town. She is an educator, and I've always known her to be very supportive, a strong advocate of Samoan language. This time, Salu, like I said, we do have a 101 and a 201, although we have Dr. Kaizi's anthropology, some of his classes here. And I like to have my 201 representatives Singapore Whakatai mai Tatahau.
Yeah, tu lo leo, lo fo ilo tu awai. Wa fo ila fai ma ponga mole. Pasa que nei fa pe fo la feel nei aso e ta whakatai atu mo me umo e fai mai o mato. Ai mai si fo mole ati na inga o Samoa i atu nu ese ngana ese o tangata umalawa e si o mio le laulang ngai. Awa o fo ise tasi fa fio tala isa tala isi mission i Samoa. Au te lo o ese le talo Samoa ia te aho. Ai mai si fo ma mau lava. Awa ma o lava ni whanau whai o Samoa. Adopted children of Samoa. Ai whaftai te le lava mo o lua. Lo songo o su mai. Ai mai si fo i ua e tala mai au. Pao ngāra lei lo tiu whonga mo le mea lei. Mo le so swani mo mātou lava. Ie māra plamba le ngana o Samoa. Au se mātou te talo nei afi yahi o le yahi nei tai au. Ie au manu le whaatasi mai le atua mo lua. A whea whio wahi I lunga le whonga le edi I maule manuia. Ai manuia lava me uma. O te iloa e le to yupu, e te le ni yupu e whai. Ai tasi lava mea ia whaftai te leva, thank you very much. In the word of the Tongan, yeah, mahaloa pito. In the word of Australia, good on you, mate. just so everyone can understand, we're very grateful that you came. We prepared a special little gift from us to you to thank you for coming and speaking to us today. And it's not much, but it's just a small piece of appreciation to give to you. But thank you very much.
I know. Malila Salu Ole Melofa le University. They didn't wrap it because they wanted us to explain what it is. The blue case is a coin, and the university has adopted the Aloha motto. And so in it, it's you can put it on your desk, and it's got what the Aloha stands for, and the writing is in the brown book. And the brown book talks about the university. It's changed a lot since you were here on campus, although you visit. And in it, it's got all the Jubilee memoirs from during its celebration. Okay, so how about another round of applause?
Yeah.
Camera like
Okay, maybe we can have them all come up.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.